Welcome back to Mystery Minds, the channel where we dive into the darkest corners of true crime, uncovering stories that shock, intrigue, and leave us questioning the world around us. In today's case, we explore a chilling and modern twist on organized crime, a high-tech mafia that operates not with guns, but with algorithms, servers, and an intricate web of deception. This is the story of Mafia 2.0, how technology is changing the game. What happens when traditional crime families trade blood-soaked streets for the anonymity of cyberspace? How does the digital underworld empower them to operate on a global scale? And how could it all come crashing down because of one unforeseen twist? Stay with us as we unravel the dark and twisted story of Mafia 2.0. It started with a series of seemingly unrelated cyber attacks, phishing scams, ransomware demands, and the hacking of high-profile corporate accounts. But behind these random crimes lay something far more sinister, an organized crime syndicate known as the Syndicate, silently reshaping the world of organized crime through technology. Their rise was swift, their methods ruthless, and their reach global. But what truly set them apart was their leader, a man no one ever suspected and whose greatest weapon wasn't a gun, but a keyboard. It all began in the bustling heart of Silicon Valley, where innovation and ambition fuel every move. Among the countless tech wizards, one man stood out for his genius, Ethan Vaughn. A gifted hacker and cybersecurity expert, Ethan's life changed forever after a devastating corporate scandal. Accused of negligence in a high-profile data breach, Ethan lost everything: his career, his reputation, and his faith in the system. Unfairly scapegoated, he turned his back on the industry that had once celebrated him. What began as a thirst for revenge soon evolved into something far more dangerous. Ethan saw the flaws in the digital age, vulnerabilities hidden in plain sight. He realized the tools designed to protect corporations and governments could just as easily be weaponized against them. Fueled by rage and an unparalleled intellect, Ethan decided to fight back not as a whistleblower or activist, but as a criminal mastermind. His target wasn't just one company, it was the entire system. He started small. Using his expertise, he breached corporate servers, siphoning funds from accounts and rerouting them through untraceable cryptocurrency networks. No one noticed at first. To the companies, it looked like random glitches, accounting errors that disappeared in the vast sea of data. But Ethan wasn't working alone for long. Word spread through underground forums about a hacker pulling off impossible heists. Disillusioned tech experts, rogue coders, and disgruntled programmers began to flock to him, each bringing their own skills to the table. Ethan realized that to achieve his vision, he needed more than a team, he needed a system. He created a secure platform called Dark Hub, a virtual haven for cybercriminals. On Dark Hub, members could post jobs, bid on assignments, and share tools anonymously. It operated like a tech startup, but with one crucial difference: every project was illegal. Dark Hub wasn't just a platform, it was the foundation of a digital empire. Ethan's leadership style was meticulous and calculated. Every operation was planned with military precision, from phishing scams that targeted small businesses to ransomware attacks on multinational corporations. Each member of the syndicate, though they didn't yet call themselves that, had a role. Ethan pulled the strings from the shadows, ensuring no one could link him directly to the crimes. His first major attack was a ransomware campaign targeting a pharmaceutical giant. The company was brought to its knees, unable to access vital research data until they paid an 8-figure ransom in Bitcoin. Ethan's team celebrated their success, but to him, it was just the beginning. The scale of their operations grew rapidly. By hacking into private databases, they gained access to classified information, financial records, and trade secrets. Ethan's team wasn't just stealing money, they were acquiring power. With every successful attack, Ethan's reputation in the criminal underworld soared. What set him apart wasn't just his technical skills, but his ability to innovate. Unlike traditional hackers, Ethan didn't rely on brute force or simple coding tricks. He used psychological manipulation, exploiting human error as much as technological flaws. But Ethan wasn't content with financial gains. He wanted to make a statement. His attacks became more symbolic, targeting institutions that represented the power he despised: banks, tech giants, even government agencies. Each breach was a demonstration of the system's fragility, a reminder that no one was truly safe in the digital age. By the time law enforcement began to notice the pattern, Ethan's network had grown too large and sophisticated to dismantle. The syndicate, as they came to be known, operated like a shadowy corporation with decentralized leadership and untraceable operations. Every move they made was calculated, every risk carefully mitigated. To the outside world, their crimes seemed random, but to Ethan, it was all part of a larger plan. Yet even as the syndicate thrived, Ethan remained a ghost. No one outside his inner circle knew his identity. To law enforcement, he was a phantom, a myth created by paranoia. To his followers, he was a genius, a visionary who had turned crime into an art form. And to his enemies, the corporations and governments he targeted, he was a threat they couldn't see coming. What no one realized was that Ethan's ambition was far greater than anyone could imagine. His rise was unstoppable, his network expanding into new territories and industries. But in the shadows of his growing empire, cracks were beginning to form, cracks that even a genius like Ethan couldn't foresee. Ethan Vaughn's syndicate didn't resemble the traditional crime families of the past. Instead of relying on blood ties and local loyalty, his network operated like a cutting-edge tech startup. It wasn't built on brute force or physical intimidation, but on anonymity, innovation, and the seamless integration of technology. Ethan's creation of Dark Hub was the key to his success. More than just a platform, it was the backbone of the syndicate, a hidden space where criminals could collaborate with precision, efficiency, and complete discretion. On Dark Hub, anyone with the right skills and a willingness to cross the line could find their place. Hackers could auction off stolen data, coders could develop malicious software for clients, and cryptocurrency specialists could launder the syndicate's profits. Every transaction was untraceable, and every user operated under layers of encryption. To law enforcement, Dark Hub was a black hole in cyberspace. To the syndicate, it was a lifeline. At the center of the operation, Ethan acted as an invisible puppet master. He didn't involve himself in the day-to-day jobs posted on Dark Hub, but ensured the platform was secure and self-sustaining. He understood that decentralization was the key to survival. By creating a system that didn't rely on any one person, he minimized the risk of exposure. If one operative was caught, the rest of the syndicate would remain untouched. Among those who rose through the ranks was Ivy Delgado, a former social media analyst with an uncanny ability to uncover hidden data. Ivy had been a rising star in the tech world, working for a prominent social media company. But after exposing corruption within her own organization, she found herself blacklisted, unable to find work in her field. When she crossed paths with Ethan, it didn't take much convincing for her to join his operation. Ivy quickly became one of Ethan's most trusted allies. Her expertise in data mining and social engineering allowed the syndicate to manipulate their targets with chilling precision. Using publicly available information, she could construct detailed profiles of victims, tracking their routines, their habits, even their secrets. Ivy's work often went unnoticed, but it was essential to the syndicate's success. She didn't just hack computers, she hacked people. Ethan's global ambitions required operatives from every corner of the world. In Moscow, Dmitry Sokolov joined the syndicate as a ransomware specialist. A gifted coder with a troubled past, Dmitry had once worked for a state-sponsored hacking group. When he defected, he brought with him a treasure trove of tools and techniques. Dmitry's ransomware campaigns crippled entire industries, locking victims out of their systems until they paid exorbitant ransoms in cryptocurrency. In Mumbai, Priya Rao became another critical piece of the puzzle. Once a renowned AI researcher, Priya had been ostracized from the scientific community after her controversial experiments in machine learning ethics. For the syndicate, her skills were invaluable. Priya developed algorithms that automated phishing attacks, making them more effective and nearly impossible to detect. Her programs could mimic human communication so convincingly that even seasoned cybersecurity experts fell for the traps. As the syndicate expanded, it began to resemble a multinational corporation. Each member operated independently, yet their efforts fed into a larger system. Ethan ensured that no one outside the core leadership team ever saw the full picture. Members didn't know each other's identities, and communication was strictly limited to Dark Hub. Despite their success, the syndicate's methods left behind a trail of victims. Small businesses went bankrupt after falling prey to phishing scams. Hospitals were forced to turn away patients as ransomware attacks froze their systems. Even governments found themselves vulnerable, their classified files exposed and their infrastructure disrupted. The syndicate was no longer just a criminal group, it was a global menace. Yet for all its technological sophistication, the syndicate was not without its weaknesses. While its decentralized structure made it resilient, it also created vulnerabilities. Members operated in silos with little understanding of how their work fit into the bigger picture. This secrecy, while protective, bred suspicion. Ivy, Dimitri, and Priya had all joined the syndicate out of desperation and ambition, but as the stakes grew higher, so did the risks. Ethan remained a shadowy figure, even to those closest to him. His ability to stay hidden was part of what made the syndicate so successful, but it also sowed seeds of doubt. Ivy, in particular, began to question Ethan's true motives. What was his endgame? Why was he so intent on maintaining control? And what secrets was he keeping from the very people who had helped build his empire? The syndicate's rise seemed unstoppable, but beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Distrust, ambition, and greed would soon threaten to unravel everything Ethan had built. For now, the syndicate operated like a well-oiled machine, but its members were beginning to realize that even the most sophisticated systems could fail. The syndicate's dominance came at a devastating cost. For every successful operation, there were countless victims left in its wake. Ordinary people, businesses, and even critical infrastructure found themselves caught in the crossfire of this invisible war. What made the syndicate so dangerous wasn't just their skill or technology, it was the ripple effect of their crimes, spreading chaos across industries and nations. One of the earliest signs of the syndicate's human toll emerged when a ransomware attack hit a regional hospital chain. The staff arrived one morning to find their systems locked, with a chilling message demanding payment in cryptocurrency. Medical records were inaccessible, surgeries had to be postponed, and ambulances were diverted to other facilities. For some patients, the delay proved fatal. The hospital administrators eventually paid the ransom, but the damage was already done. Lives were lost, and trust in the healthcare system eroded. The syndicate had proven its willingness to strike at the heart of society's most critical institutions. The attacks didn't stop there. Small business owners found themselves bankrupt after falling victim to phishing scams. Entire families lost their life savings when their bank accounts were drained by malware. And while some corporations could absorb the financial blows, the reputational damage was often irreparable. The syndicate's victims weren't just statistics, they were real people whose lives were shattered by an enemy they couldn't see or fight. For investigative journalist Sophia Mills, the syndicate was more than a story, it was a cause. Sophia had built her career exposing corruption and uncovering hidden truths, but the syndicate presented a challenge unlike any she had faced before. Their anonymity and technological sophistication made them nearly impossible to trace, but Sophia was determined. She spent months researching their methods, tracking digital breadcrumbs, and connecting the dots between seemingly unrelated cybercrimes. Her work culminated in a groundbreaking expose. Sophia revealed how the syndicate had orchestrated one of the largest data breaches in history, stealing sensitive information from millions of people. She detailed their use of ransomware, phishing, and social engineering, painting a picture of a criminal empire operating in the shadows. Her article sent shockwaves through the tech world and beyond, drawing attention from law enforcement agencies and cybersecurity experts. But Sophia's success came at a price. Within days of publishing her story, she became a target. It started subtly strange emails, unfamiliar devices appearing on her Wi-Fi network. Then it escalated. Her bank accounts were drained, her credit cards maxed out, and her social media profiles flooded with fabricated posts that tarnished her reputation. Even her closest friends began to question her integrity. Sophia's determination only grew. She began piecing together more evidence, digging deeper into the syndicate's operations. Her research led her to a name that kept appearing in encrypted messages in hidden corners of the dark web: Ethan Vaughn. Sophia was on the verge of a breakthrough when she disappeared. One night, her car was found abandoned on a remote stretch of highway, her laptop wiped clean of all its data. To the public, it was a tragic mystery. To those who knew the syndicate, it was a warning. While the syndicate thrived, their actions left a growing trail of destruction. People like Sophia, who dared to challenge them, paid the ultimate price. Even those who cooperated with their demands weren't safe. The syndicate didn't just take money, they took control. For every ransom paid, there was an implicit message: the syndicate held the power, and no one could stop them. Yet, for all their success, the syndicate's actions attracted unwanted attention. Governments and private cybersecurity firms began investing heavily in countermeasures. Ethical hackers formed underground networks to combat the rising tide of cybercrime. Whispers of resistance began to spread, but no one knew where to start. The syndicate's operations were so vast, so decentralized, that even identifying their members seemed impossible. But not everyone within the syndicate shared Ethan Vaughn's vision. As the scale of their crimes grew, so did the moral conflicts among its members. Dmitry Sokolov, the brilliant coder behind many of the ransomware campaigns, began to feel the weight of his actions. He had joined the syndicate for the promise of freedom and wealth, but the devastation he caused was starting to haunt him. The syndicate's success was built on secrecy and trust, but the cracks were beginning to show. The human cost of their operations was no longer something they could ignore, and the enemies they had made were growing stronger and more determined. For Ethan and his network, the question was no longer whether they could keep expanding, it was how long they could survive before the shadows they thrived in turned against them. The syndicate's empire, once impenetrable, was beginning to show its first real signs of vulnerability. As their crimes grew more ambitious, the risks became harder to control. Law enforcement agencies across the globe were now pooling their resources, forming alliances to track down the elusive group responsible for the chaos. Leading this effort was Interpol's newly formed Cybercrime Task Force, a team of elite specialists tasked with dismantling the syndicate's sprawling network. At the forefront of the task force was Agent Ryan Calloway, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving the unsolvable. Ryan's team included experts in digital forensics, artificial intelligence, and behavioral analysis, all focused on unraveling the syndicate's operations. They had already identified patterns in the group's attacks, specific coding styles, unique encryption methods, and even subtle timestamps that suggested a global network of operatives working across time zones. Despite their progress, the syndicate remained one step ahead. Ethan Vaughn's use of Dark Hub allowed him to maintain control without exposing himself. The platform's decentralized structure made it nearly impossible to trace communications, while layers of encryption protected the identities of its users. The task force found themselves chasing ghosts, with each lead dissolving into nothingness. But even the most sophisticated systems are not without flaws. A breakthrough came when Ivy Delgado, the syndicate's data mining specialist, made a critical mistake. Tasked with creating profiles of high-value targets, Ivy accessed a government database that was under surveillance. The breach triggered an alert, setting off a chain of events that gave the task force their first real clue. They couldn't identify Ivy directly, but they traced her actions to a proxy server in Argentina. For Ivy, the mistake was a turning point. She had always prided herself on precision, but the pressure of working for the syndicate was beginning to take its toll. Her growing doubts about Ethan's true motives didn't help. She had joined the syndicate out of desperation, seeking a second chance after being cast out by the tech world. Now she wondered if she had made a deal with the devil. Dmitry Sokolov was facing his own crisis. As the architect of many of the syndicate's most devastating ransomware attacks, he had amassed a fortune. But the cost of his actions was becoming unbearable. Each new attack brought fresh stories of ruined lives and shattered communities. Dmitry's guilt began to consume him, and for the first time he questioned whether the syndicate's vision was worth the destruction it caused. The cracks within the syndicate grew deeper when Priya Rao, the AI expert, uncovered something disturbing. While analyzing Dark Hub's backend systems, she discovered a hidden code buried within the platform. It was a kill switch, an encrypted command that could shut down the entire network in an instant. Priya realized that Ethan had built a failsafe to protect himself, a way to destroy the syndicate if it ever became a liability. Priya's discovery shattered the illusion of trust. Until now, the core members had believed they were equals, bound together by a shared vision. The kill switch revealed the truth: Ethan was always in control, and he was willing to sacrifice everyone else to protect himself. Priya considered confronting Ethan but decided against it. Instead, she began secretly compiling evidence of the syndicate's operations, creating a contingency plan of her own. Meanwhile, the Cybercrimes Task Force continued to close in. Using the proxy server in Argentina as a starting point, they identified a series of IP addresses linked to Dark Hub. It was a small breakthrough, but it was enough to give Ryan Calloway hope. The team began mapping the syndicate's digital footprint, uncovering the complex web of servers and relays that kept them hidden. Ethan remained unaware of the growing storm around him. His focus was on the next phase of his plan, a bold attack on the financial sector that would cement the syndicate's dominance. It was the most ambitious operation they had ever attempted, involving coordinated breaches of multiple global banks. If successful, it would not only generate billions in profit but also destabilize the world's economy. But Ethan's arrogance blinded him to the growing threats from within and outside the syndicate. Ivy, Dimitri, and Priya were no longer loyal followers. Each harbored doubts and fears about the path they were on. The Cybercrimes Task Force was closing in, armed with new intelligence and a determination to bring the syndicate down. The syndicate had reached its peak, but the foundations of Ethan's empire were beginning to crumble. As the financial heist loomed, the cracks widened, threatening to bring everything crashing down. Ethan had built his empire on secrecy and control, but the question remained, how long could he keep it together before it all unraveled? The syndicate's final act was set to be its most daring and destructive yet. Ethan Vaughn had orchestrated a plan that would forever alter the global financial landscape. By simultaneously breaching the systems of multiple international banks, the syndicate aimed to siphon billions of dollars and destabilize economies across the world. It wasn't just about the money, it was about making a statement. For Ethan, this was the culmination of everything he had built, a legacy of power and defiance against the systems he despised. The operation was meticulously planned. Ivy Delgado's data mining provided the profiles of key bank employees, mapping their routines and identifying vulnerabilities. Priya Rao's AI algorithms automated phishing campaigns, targeting employees with precision and creating backdoors into the bank's networks. Dmitry Sokolov developed the malware that would spread through the financial systems, encrypting data and rerouting funds to untraceable cryptocurrency accounts. Every detail was accounted for, and every member of the syndicate had their role to play. But the cracks within the organization had widened. Ivy, Dimitri, and Priya had grown increasingly disillusioned, each wrestling with their conscience and the weight of their actions. Priya, who had uncovered Ethan's hidden kill switch on Dark Hub, was particularly on edge. The realization that Ethan could erase the syndicate at any moment made her question his motives and his loyalty to the team. As the operation unfolded, the Cybercrimes Task Force was watching. Agent Ryan Calloway and his team had spent months mapping the syndicate's digital infrastructure, piecing together the fragments of their vast network. The task force had discovered enough to anticipate the heist and prepare a counterattack. With Interpol's resources behind them, they began coordinating with financial institutions, strengthening defenses, and setting traps within the systems the syndicate intended to breach. Unaware of the task force's preparations, Ethan initiated the operation. The malware infiltrated the bank's systems, encrypting data and halting transactions. Customers and employees alike were locked out, chaos erupting as the syndicate's demands for cryptocurrency payments appeared on screens across the globe. News outlets reported on the attack within hours, calling it the most sophisticated and wide-reaching cybercrime in history. For Ethan, the initial success was validation. The syndicate had proven its power once again, demonstrating the fragility of the global financial system. But his confidence began to waver when unexpected errors appeared in the operation's execution. Priya's algorithms were encountering resistance in the bank's networks, the malware was slower than anticipated, and funds were not transferring as planned. Behind the scenes, the task force had activated their countermeasures. They had planted false trails within the bank's systems, redirecting the syndicate's malware into isolated networks. As Dmitry attempted to bypass these defenses, his actions inadvertently revealed a key vulnerability in Dark Hub. The task force seized the opportunity, exploiting the flaw to infiltrate the syndicate's platform. At the same time, dissent within the syndicate reached its breaking point. Dmitry, overcome by guilt and fear, reached out anonymously to the authorities, providing critical information about the operation. He justified it as an attempt to mitigate the damage, but in doing so, he unknowingly exposed Priya and Ivy's roles. When Priya realized that law enforcement was closing in, she activated her contingency plan, encrypting her own systems and erasing any trace of her involvement. Ethan, for the first time, found himself losing control. The operation was unraveling, and the cracks in his empire were impossible to ignore. His decision to activate the kill switch was swift. Within moments, Dark Hub went dark, severing communication between Syndicate members and erasing years of data. Ethan disappeared, vanishing without a trace as his empire crumbled around him. The fallout was immediate. Authorities around the world conducted coordinated raids, arresting lower-level operatives and seizing assets linked to the Syndicate. Dmitri, having turned himself in, became a key witness, providing testimony that implicated other members. Priya vanished, leaving behind only fragments of encrypted data that investigators couldn't crack. Ivy, who had tried to warn Ethan about the growing risks, found herself betrayed and abandoned, facing the consequences of her involvement alone. Ethan's whereabouts remained a mystery. Despite the task force's efforts, no trace of him was ever found. Some speculated he had fled to a remote location, living under a new identity. Others believed he had prepared for this outcome all along, retreating to plan his next move. The Syndicate's reign was over, but its legacy lingered. The attack on the banks was largely thwarted, yet the damage to public trust in financial systems was significant. Governments and corporations scrambled to fortify their cybersecurity measures, knowing the next threat could emerge at any moment. For Ryan Calloway and his team, the victory was bittersweet. They had dismantled one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in history, but they knew the battle against cybercrime was far from over. The Syndicate's rise and fall had exposed the vulnerabilities of a world increasingly dependent on technology, a world where the line between hero and villain was often blurred. Ethan Vaughn had disappeared, but his message remained clear: no system is truly secure, and no empire, digital or otherwise, lasts forever. Weeks later, an encrypted message was sent to global media outlets. It read, "You can't kill what lives in the shadows, EV." The Syndicate's operations were crippled, but Ethan's disappearance left a chilling possibility. Could Mafia 2.0 rise again under a new leader? And that concludes the story of Mafia 2.0, a terrifying glimpse into how technology is reshaping the world of organized crime. What do you think? Could we be witnessing the dawn of a new era of cybercriminal empires? Or is it only a matter of time before the shadows reveal more secrets? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching Mystery Minds, where we uncover the darkest stories that challenge what we think we know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime mysteries. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.